unless we figure out ultimate solution, and the highway is pretty much paved for what's coming. So I think there's a lot of challenges facing us, and really interested in economy. I've been in the crypto space since the mid 2010s too, and yeah, interested in mutual credits, interested in new forms of social media that actually incentivize people to have real conversations and all these kinds of things. And I think what these guys are doing is really important. So I'm here to learn, listen, and see ways I can support.
My name is Jan. I live in Spokane City. Uh, been a long-term friend with Dan too, and kind of been observing this movement evolve with time, just from the peripheral. And I been in the crypto space for a long time too. Love not have a lot of time, but love technology-related topics, and I just thought I'd go and see for myself tonight.
My name's Cloud. I live up in the Tagum School Creek area. I'm a commercial insurance broker specializing in communications. And my pet pursuit is governance. I am a friend of Dan's and others around the table, and I'd like to see, learn, and lend a hand. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Sky, and been investing in crypto for probably around 2017 as well. But now just wanting to use it, and I'm a builder. I love building wooden geodesic domes, but I'm a custom home builder of all sorts, and really passionate about affordable housing and connecting perhaps some crypto crowdfunding to lead to building affordable housing. And so we're working on that as the passion project, for sure.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm from South Africa originally, been in Nelson for 12 years, wishing I had got into crypto in 2017. But I've been a passionate open source advocate for most of my life, for 20 years of being a professional developer. I've built a lot of big communities using Drupal, particularly the WOOF Global organization, the WOOF Global community across 40 different countries. I'm super stoked with what Dan and Dustin and crew are doing with Lightweb, and I'm one of the founders of the AI Collective here, and one of the original members of the tech community meetups that have been happening here. And I have a level of frustration that we're 12 years or so in, and we haven't really progressed a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of legacy we can show for all of the awesome meetups and amazing conversations we've had. So I'm looking to collaborate and figure out like how we can best connect all of these disparate communities, well, not disparate, but all of these a variety of communities in a way that we can kind of be providing a new infrastructure for moving forward online here. And very much in an open source capacity, and stoked to be here.
I'm Rafe. I'm also a developer, lean more Python, but also full stack as well. I've known Dan for quite a while. Came from cannabis background, but he brought up to my attention that you guys are doing this project. I'm really curious of what the direction is, and having a data center in the Kootenays in a lot of different forms appeals to me for lots of personal reasons, and I think it's just a really interesting concept to see move forward. So just curious to see what we have so far.
My name is Brian McLaughlin. I'm a local artist, sign builder, muralist. Been here for a long time. I do a lot of tech. I have a lot of tools, CNC machine, 3D printers, 52-inch printer plotter cutter. It's one of my babies. I rebuilt it, and I do a lot of, I guess, tech stuff that way. And I'm really interested in local projects. Do a lot of presentations to regional districts and council. I'm very active. One was just last week, a few weeks ago, about the ostriches. And yeah, I'm very active that way. I'm looking at this as an avenue of democratic, like the digital currency, for example, is kind of like slavery, And I'm just thinking, like, how can we expand out of slavery. For example, me going to get my driver's license. How can I do that with Lightweb or something like that without giving in to digital currency? Like, you have to sign up to digital currency in order to get your driver's license. Looks like kind of the next step here. I don't know, but just looking at a more democratic way to go about building community. I'm here.
Thanks.
Hey, my name is Marcus. Everything you guys said.
Times two.
Everything you guys said, and I suppose I do have a sort of a niche specialty in personal growth. And personal growth routines and special things. I'm an author in several books and how to find center, establish routines, and all of that. And I am very connected and very interested in all the AI stuff. I just wrote an article, by the way, not too long ago about how AI is our friend. And so I'm here to find out more and participate.
Nice.
Hey everybody, my name is Zia. I'm on the board with these gentlemen and Matt. I am here mainly because Dustin shared this vision with me many years ago, and I was deeply inspired with what he had to say. And I think that's the impetus for all of us kind of joining on the board in the first place. You know, Dustin's vision, Dustin's leadership, and seeing what we've all now put together and what you guys have done in the years before I joined is really motivating and exciting. So excited to see where we go with the next 1 or 2 years as things really start to accelerate. And I'm from Castle.
Yeah, and I guess we could just keep going around. Justin, are you there?
Oh yeah, Justin's on there.
Don't hear him. That's okay. Jan, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Jan. I'm the editor of the Valley Voice newspaper out of New Denver. And I've written a story about the Lightweb, and I'm just really interested in getting an update.
And Matt, you're up.
Thanks, Jan.
Hi, I'm Matt Gregoire. I'm a senior systems administrator at the University of British Columbia. I'm one of the founding members of the Lightweb with Dustin and Dan and Zia. I've been a part of open source or free and open source software since the 90s. Was brought into it based in philosophy. I came in based on the philosophy of Richard M. Stallman starting the GNU project. I like that people have adopted open source, but I also take a pragmatic approach like Richard Stallman in that we should call it free and open source software because it's really about freedom, not free as in beer, but free as in freedom. Actually use that a little bit. Not all open source software is free. There.
We got a train coming here. Let's see here. We'll have to mind the train. Here it comes.
It's generating energy.
I feel like my message is coming in like a locomotive.
Let's see if we can turn you up.
Diesel.
But how do you turn this thing up all the way?
The whole thing.
I can turn it up here a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I'm feeling it go.
Yeah, I've been part of the free and open source software in the 90s, and even though I've loved technology most of my life, really the first software.
He needs to be closer to his mic.
Yeah, you're getting cut off
You're
again.
too far from your microphone.
Sorry, guys. Is that better?
Can hear you. Yeah.
And yeah, so one of the kind of initial things that Richard M. Stallman recognized with free software, proprietors taking over software, is what I wait on.
Hey Matt, you're a little hard to hear.
You're too far from your microphone.
Maybe the train's messing with shit.
The train is.
I think the train is
Give your guys owl a little bit there.
part of our presentation in about 15 minutes. So we'll let you kind of continue with what you were going to say then. Does that sound good?
Oh, train's
Sure.
coming.
Yeah. Oh, train's gone unless you got one more thing.
There's nothing.
Yeah, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, you can hear you.
Sure, should I start again, or did you guys hear what I've said up till now?
No, talk about the difference between free. Like people get confused about open source and free.
Well,
What's
open source, in fact, free software was the initial name coined by Richard Stallman before open source, and open source was an initiative that came after with a lot of corporate funding and swag, because they wanted to move the topic away from talking about freedom to more about the technical aspects of the software. And a lot of developers appreciate that, but it was really about the freedom that brought me into the open source software realm, free and open source software realm. One of the important things about free and open source software that Richard Stallman recognized, and a lot of philosophers recognized, was that proprietary software will start running things like our hydro dams and our phone systems and our computer systems and all the things that we depend on to communicate and run our lives in government, tax software. And I think that it's important that communities are able to audit and understand and own the systems themselves, rather than proprietors and people that want to collect royalties and tax those systems. And in software, when you can copy things infinitely, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pull that kind of revenue out of communities other than just pure greed. So that's why I'm in the free source software. I'm part of the Lightweb and a founding member of the Lightweb.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, joining us from Kelowna. He has been a big part of the brains behind this operation. And I'd like to say the Lightweb has been running, I would say, for at least 6 months without any hiccups or problems. And the last one was like a power outage and it reset some stuff, but Matt figures out how to do it remotely and get the cloud running and get everything. So let's just clap for Matt, actually. So I'm just so grateful for people like Matt and people like Dan. And the other person I do want to mention is Dan Nesbitt, who couldn't be here. He's at another AGM. He's also on the board. He's also our secretary. And he also has the whole backup system in his house. So basically, I'll get into the presentation in a minute, but the Lightweb servers live in Avatar Computers in Dan's office, and it's like 3 redundant systems, and then it all backs up to Caslo. So if that system blew up, at least we'd have all our data stored somewhere. And that's about as far as material server purchases we've done so far. Yet I just wanted to mention Dan Nesbitt because he's been a huge part of our team and making sure the financials get out and AGM reporting and provincial stuff. And I didn't really quite realize what it took to run a co-op until we got here. And so here we are. And so just to give a bit of a framework of what we're doing today is we're going to give a presentation. I'm going to speak a bit, then Matt, then Matt, then Dan, then Zia, or however that goes. And then once that's complete, we'll probably just have some questions, and then we'll move right into our AGM. And so people are welcome to join for the presentation. You're welcome to join for the AGM. My goal is that we're all done and out of here by 8 o'clock tonight. I like pretty efficient and effective meetings. But yeah, so anyways, that kind of gives you an idea of what we're in store for. And so I guess I'll just explain the history. I realized, I'm like, wow, like I live in Caslo, and Caslo Infonet Society started up, and I'm like, this is great. We got one of the fastest internet connections on the planet in Caslo, and it was because the society said we're gonna make an internet company, and we're gonna run fiber to every single person's house. And then I started thinking, wow, if we got fiber to every single person's house, all the way up to Johnson's Landing, all the way to Ainsworth now, it's like, why wouldn't we have a community data owned cloud? Why wouldn't we be able to communicate through this platform? Why wouldn't we be able to do all this? And we're hardwired, literally, and being able to connect with each other. And so that was my inspiration. I just thought of this idea. I'm like, I'm sick of storing my stuff on Google Cloud. I want to have it here. And then the pandemic happened, and then the whole privacy issues, everything became very prevalent of like, oh, look, my Facebook message got censored and I can't post this anymore, and my YouTube thing got taken down, and all this stuff happened, and then it made like a double reason to create. It was like, oh, maybe we want to protect ourselves, we want to know where our data lives, we want to, do this, and also like as an economic reason, like I would rather pay someone like Matt or Dan Nesbitt or these techs to run the Lightweb, to run the membership. And I'm like, well, why don't we do this? And so I sat down with Dan. Dan's like, I know the guy. His name is Matt. He knows how to do this Proxmox thing and run Element Messenger and run Nextcloud and run all of these off one IP address. And I'm like, perfect. Let's talk to Matt. And Matt was like, boom, I'm in. I'm like, I want to do this. Let's make it all open source. Let's make it duplicatable so that if we create it in the Kootenays and Calgary wants a Lightweb, or maybe Alberta will need a Lightweb someday. If another community was like, we want our own private decentralized communication platform, what do we buy? How do we set it up? Anyways, the point is that what we're doing is we're creating it to be a model that other communities could use, and using the Kootenays as a pilot project. So we got Matt on the phone. They got out a bunch of old equipment and hard drives and computers and strung it all together. And all of a sudden, we're having a Jitsi meeting like this. And we were talking on our phones on Element. We were using Nextcloud, and we're like, okay, this is good. In my mind, proof of concept. Let's raise some money and get some brand new stuff. So we went out. We made a crowdfunding campaign in Visionary Fund, which is owned by a friend of ours here, Kamara. And so she kind of coached us through how to make this platform, how to do this thing. And we just walked around Caslo. Like I talked to Zia, like I talked to this person. Hey, do you want to put $100 into creating our own internet in the Kootenays? And a lot of people are like, yeah, here's $100 or whatever. So we managed to raise about $10,000. I do want to give a shout out to Focus Life Force Energy. There's a guy named Clayton that runs that company, and he at one time was given money to start that company, and he's like, I like to pay it forward. He just wrote us a check for $2,000 and said, good luck, and then supported us, financially for a while after that. And so just wanted to make sure that when people support us that they get recognition, because they're a consciousness company. And that's what I consider this is a way of consciousness in the Kootenays. And when we started this, AI wasn't even as big yet. And now, after going to your presentation, I was like, whoa, there is an opportunity beyond what I saw inside the Lightweb, because we can host our own instances of AI, have them manage our social media, have augmented intelligence, which allows AI to bring in our values, light, love, connection. We don't gossip on the Lightweb. If it shows up as that, let's move it around. get AI to help us create. Oh, look, Zia lives next door and he's into ping pong and so am I, and let's go hang out with Zia, like the potential of this project starts to get greater and greater. And so that's a bit of the history. I'll let these guys talk a little bit about what's happened now. The last thing that I'll say of the hurdle that I really realized of creating a whole new platform is usability. People, we have 120 some odd members, and I would say 20% of those are like active users. They communicate on Element, they use the cloud sometimes. Other people are they just got the cloud storage and they've never even uploaded a file yet. And it's because they have Google Drive, and that's what they're used to and that's what they know. And so this coming year, it was like in 2024, I'm like, this project's got to work. I'm like, I want it to work. I don't want it to go down. I want it to be solid. I want to trust it. I store my main files on the cloud now because I think it's good. The Mac guy started doing it. Dan does it. We're like, okay, it works. I'm secure with this platform. And then in 2025, I'm like, okay, now it's time to make this project thrive and just create it better. And so, Matt's going to talk a little bit about, I think he'll talk a little bit about it, but we use a program called Keycloak. And that's like when you log into the Lightweb, it gives you a user ID that works throughout the rest of the platform. So it works inside Nextcloud, it works inside Element, it will work inside of our social media platform. And that way it's like we can keep it, and this is another thing I'm learning about, is keeping it tight and keeping it solid, right? So you become a member, you get one ID. You can't have 6 Lightweb IDs.
Yeah, so it's Keycloak's
right?
an identity server.
It's an identity server. And so this is the challenge that we're sort of not, I wouldn't say it's a challenge. It's a challenge to automate things. Someone signs up, they bought their membership, it goes, their membership gets tracked, they paid. If they upgrade their service, it updates. Right now it's sort of all a manual process, and that's okay because we only have 120 users. But just with the advances in open source, it just keeps humming along. And so that's my big takeaway from this year is just be patient. Everything's happening at the right time, and just however it is with new or the same governments coming in, it's like I don't trust this, and maybe this is more important than I thought. So we'll keep rolling. Oh, there's your man Dan. Perfect. Dan's our other board member. So I will just stop talking. Maybe I'll let you say
Sure,
a
I'll
few
just-
words about what you want to talk about, and then maybe I'll let you show the website piece, and we'll just kind of talk about the website and branding of the Lightweb, and and then we'll just keep going.
Cool. Yeah. So I think it's helpful to understand the story. Like, I got into all of this like a long time ago. I got into FidoNet, and so that I realized there was this birth. The internet was just this new freedom. It was like it felt so good. And when the digital dark age started dawning, which I thought was like during the pandemic, when there started to be lots of censorship that wasn't fair, that was out of alignment with the community. I realized, well, a lot of people were saying, okay, yes, algorithms suck. Everybody's getting off Facebook and trying to find something better. A lot of people were moving over to Telegram. And I was like, well, that's not the right move. Like, you might as well go all the way to open source and community owned data. So that's why I was like, okay, this is what we need to do for this push. It's got to be community owned data, got to be community messaging. We've got all of that stuff. We have to have it locally. And it turned out when I talked to people, all these other people were saying the same thing. And I was like, well, here we are in the Kootenays with all these super techs. Like, let's just put it together. And we found, I did a lot of research on different messaging platforms, like including Signal. And I wrote lots of articles about all these different alternative social messaging networks for years. And then finally, I found Element Matrix, which is like, it hit all the spots. It had the organic part, it had the complexity in order to have rooms and spaces, and you could customize it however you want. But also it was open source, because I believe everything should be open source. And it was also and decentralized, right? So you can host it yourself. So and then I ran into Matt and Dustin, and then connected with Dan, and I was like, okay, well, let's put this thing together. So it started happening organically, and then we set up some servers and say, why stop at just messaging? Why not have cloud? And all that basically started happening. And so Matt told me about, I didn't even know about Nextcloud, but Nextcloud is pretty amazing. And it's been around for a very long time. I think before Dropbox and before OneDrive. But I use cloud. I've been using cloud for a long time, all the way back to X, which was a cloud that goes way back into the early 2000s. And so I love using Nextcloud because it does everything that all the major big data clouds do. So it's clear that we can do everything that Google and big data offers. We can do it locally, and that's really the spirit of what I'm excited about is doing everything that big data does, but you can do it locally here, and that includes your phone, your calendar on your phone, your contacts, everything that people use data for. We do it locally. So that's what I'm excited about.
In case anyone isn't a member yet or logged in, and we keep saying Nextcloud,
You're sharing this?
Yeah, I just shared this.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is Nextcloud, and so if you picture Google Suite or Google Drive, this is where you store your files. That's where you store your pictures. That's your calendar. That's your contacts. That's your forms. That's how we did our survey. Zia is going to present a survey, so we made a Nextcloud form and sent it out to 30, 40 people and did a form. This one here is Element. So Element we were talking about, I would say it's very comparable to Signal. So whether it's a desktop version or an app version, you can still do a phone call, you can do a video call, you can create a room, you can do pretty much all the same things you can do on a program like Signal, except...
So this is like the whole ecosystem interface is a lot like Google Workspace or Office 365. The same type of environment. And the thing about Element that we're going into here.
Raph has a question.
Yeah.
Encryption?
Yeah, encryption. Matty, are you still with us?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about encryption. Like the servers have the volume level encryption, And then we're using Element Matrix, which also has its own encryption. You want to talk a bit about that, Matt?
Yeah, the encryption will be different for every application, but we have volume encryption on the servers themselves, and then Element, which is a lot like Signal, actually uses the same handshaking algorithms and encryption algorithms as Signal. So it's end-to-end encrypted, depending on if you set that or not in public rooms, right? Because there is some challenges when, like, even when you're in a Signal room, if you have 50 people in it, there's not a lot of sense to encryption because there's a good chance those 50 people have, you know, untrustable devices or something like that, right? So it poses challenges. But yeah, Element itself is very similar to Signal for the end-to-end encryption, especially for one-on-one chats with trusted devices. Nextcloud provides options to encrypt certain folders for yourself so you can have end-to-end encryption. But that's not, I mean, that's really good if they're files that you're just storing for yourself, but it's less good if you want to use those files for community engagement. So if you want to do shared document editing or have a photo album that you share with a lot of people. And at that point, then having end-to-end encryption doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because you're sharing it out with the world already.
Cool.
Thanks.
Nice.
So are we using Element or are we using Signal?
We're using Element. So I'll say something about Element and Signal. Since we don't have a lot of people using the Element platform and a lot of people are already in Signal, I find Signal sort of next best. It's really good because a lot of people, it's very popular. One of the things we're working on in the next phase of the Lightweb is bridging, because there's about 30 community Signal rooms locally in the Kootenays that I'm already connected to. And a lot of those rooms are going to bridge to this Element Matrix. So if people are in the Lightweb already with an ID, they can see the Signal group even though they're not in the Signal group. And people that are in the Signal group will be bridged to the Element group. So it's actually one way to bring people in the community that are already all about privacy that are in the Signal groups to be able to onboard them to Element Matrix as well onto the Lightweb. So that's something we're working on.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up one major benefit of Element over Signal because they use the similar encryption standards, handshaking for end-to-end. The massive benefit of Element over Signal, which I'm going to bring up later as well, but is that it is a federated service that anybody can run their own servers. So if we run our own servers in the Kootenays and then another community has their own servers in Calgary, they can still talk to each other through federation and encryption, whereas Signal is owned by a single company, and because it's a centralized service that way by a single company, it's easily corruptible and it can be shut down if it's being used in ways governments don't like, much easier than federated systems.
Yeah, that says a lot about why federation is critical. It's super redundant, and the community owns it, and so whereas post Signal, it's owned by corporations.
The other big issue is that any data in America is they can take your data at any point they want to. That's so that in Canada, I'm not saying that they can't go after you if but there's a lot more stringent regulations before they can get after your data.
Correct. Yeah.
Out of interest, is Mastodon federated within Elements too? Like, is there any crossover there?
So Mastodon is compatible. It's already set up that it can work with Nextcloud.
Okay.
So there's a way to bring that in.
But with Elements, is there any kind of crossover there? I'm just
Matt, do you know a crossover with Element and Mastodon? I mean, there can be.
Yeah.
No, I mean they're different platforms. There's a lot of parallelism in their philosophies, you know, based on being able to have sovereign servers, but still federating all of the people and all the communities so that they can still communicate. But
for me, this is
Element is like a chat program, and Mastodon is like Twitter, right? So it would be like having Twitter's chat, I guess. But yeah, there's no integrations really between them other than the identity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a good. Yeah. So everyone got that. Mastodon is the open source version of Twitter.
Yeah.
And kind of takes us into like the conversation of where the Lightweb's going now. First, I pulled up our website. This is Zia. Zia came on. He told you why he came on.
And Matt, you can see this too, right? I'm just making sure that these guys can see the screen sharing.
Yep, we can see this.
And so one of the pieces of the Lightweb too, it's like, okay, if we're going to host a website, I don't want to pay GoDaddy or whatever, or I don't want to pay a web hosting. I want to host it on our own server. And so this is hosted on our own server, and Zio can explain. It came with its challenges because we use this is hosted on Webflow, which is kind of like built on Webflow, and then to make it host on our server, there's its own challenges. But I think it's worth it because it's like our website is hosted on our own servers, and so we host our own website. We host our own platform called ListMonk, which is similar to Mailchimp, so we can do mailing. We host our own platform for, it's called accounting or something.
Yeah, accounting with a K.
But we host our own accounting software. And so this is sort of the robustness that we could do on this system, is we can just keep adding on. And then after meeting Greg, I'm like, well, and he was talking about Drupal and
Drupal looks pretty cool.
Open social, and I'm like, wow, this is the next piece that I want to move towards, is like the social component, which has the barter sell trade, which has, this is what I did yesterday, which connects your kids to the soccer game, whatever it is, it can be this robust platform. And so I'm like, I've been this whole time, I'm like, let's do it. And then Matt in the background is like, no, first we got to get Keycloak working. We got to get the onboarding process working. It comes back to this user friendly. So it's like not putting the horse before the cart too much, because if people go on something a few times and it doesn't work, then they stop. And so I just wanted to name that, because that's where we're going, but it's like, it's just everything at its exact right time. And right now it's this usability and making sure that our onboarding process is good. Because look, we have a room of 20 people here, and 120 members. But as soon as it got really released in the Kootenays, we could have 1,000 fast or 10,000 fast. And it's like, and that's this, I just want to, what I've learned about companies is like grow slow and grow inside of your capacity. And so I'm really thankful that I have a grounded board to keep us moving steadily, yet not too fast. Maybe I'll just show you the website in case you haven't seen it. We have a join now button, and we basically, for right now, we set up a Stripe account that said you can pay $25 or you can pay $100 to become a founding member and make a bit of a contribution. We're working on things like corporate memberships. What would it look like to be a company in the Kootenays? And maybe it just comes with some more cloud storage. And we've had our first people say, can you upgrade me to 200 gigabytes of data? And they're like, and I'll give you $50 a year to do that. And I click 3 buttons and boom. That's our monthly subscription cost starting to come in. And so that's what I'm talking about thriving in 2025, of like, let's get people, now that it works, now that it's up, it's solid, it's fast, making these either monthly or yearly contributions, so that we have a case. We can keep expanding equipment. This is what we are, and we're really just building the rocket ship in the air. And what I'm learning about from Zia is branding and messaging, and getting that piece taken care of. So that's starting to take more of a front as we roll it out in the Kootenays, and people, they see it and they see the Lightweb logo and they see it on someone's laptop, and it kind of becomes like this tribe, this culture of where these Kootenay sort of rebels, on the new site. And as soon as you see someone on it, people want on it. They're like, oh, why am I not on it? I'm like, okay, give me $25 and let's go. And so we've been having, it's just, like I said, it's been this learning process. Oh, there's beautiful me making the thing. The problem, we talked about the problem. The solution, we're creating safety, privacy, sovereignty, love, and connection through cutting open source technology, cutting edge. And I'd like to say that we're a cutting edge company, a cutting edge co-op, because we have people like Matt and Zia and Dan always researching the best. And this is what I love about this project. And now with the whole AI concept coming online, it's even
nice
more.
image, by the way. That lake with the
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow, beautiful. But the auras going on. Love it.
A little bit about our vision. Provide tangible alternatives to big data. That pretty much just says it.
It's also not just alternatives to big data. It's rethinking the whole philosophy around connection and social media. Like, how do we do the opposite of the division we do, connection. How do we get people offline? Like that's another big part of it, right? And there's so many other elements to the cloud, like sharing albums, sharing art, inspiring creative exploration, and congratulating people for their input. And
There's a lot of open source content that exists in the Kootenays. A snowboarding video that I made a few years ago. It's like one piece that is almost came together is as soon as you come into Nextcloud, I call it the free pile. You click on the free pile and there's just like 200, 300, 400 gigabytes or terabytes or whatever of just information that you can watch, pick apart. And Dan has tons of paranormal, like cool stuff that someone might want to do. And instead of going to Netflix every time you want to find something to watch, you go to the free pile and you pull out something and watch something a little bit more education or a little bit more conscious. And so that's something else that we're playing with. And then, Zia made this cool spinny wheel, Facebook. Soon I hope this is like a Drupal logo, like we have a social media platform. Messaging this is the logo for Element.
instead of WhatsApp.
Instead of WhatsApp and instead of Google Drive, we use Nextcloud. Calendar goes into Nextcloud. And this is another thing we also launched as forums, which is
discourse,
which is still being built. And what I've also realized in a project like this is the importance of team. Everybody in this room, going around has another specialty and another way to contribute to the Lightweb. And so this year in 2025, as we thrive, it's like, okay, let's find the people who really want to step up. When we have our AGM, we're going to have an election. And I know some people want to stand and be on the board, but if you're thinking of it, it would be a great time to jump on and be part of the team. Usually we meet twice a month. And I would say mandatory 1 month. You've got to be at one meeting, and then you can host as many meetings as you want on your tangent on your project. But I'm just dropping some seeds in case anyone is like a board-like kind of person out there, because it's a lot of fun. And I was saying to Dan, I'm like, he's like, I was a little stressed out today. I'm like, oh, where's the AGM? Where's the financials? Where's the thing? He's like, are you still having fun? I'm like, I'm still having fun.
It's all supposed to be fun.
It's like if this gets too serious, it's like it's kind of we're out. And we have a lot of fun on these board meetings, and it is just this like uber creative process in learning. So that's about what I have to say for right now. Maybe Zia, I'll see if you have anything to say, and then Dan, and then I know Matt has a few things.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to the website a couple things. The main thing I wanted to suggest is if any of you guys are out there advocating for the Lightweb, telling someone about the Lightweb, just send them here. It tells our story. We've got that video of Dustin kind of explaining with passion why we do what we do. And there's a payment link, as he mentioned, on there. So if someone is interested in actually joining the Lightweb, they can convert right there. So that's something that we achieved in the last year that I think we're pretty happy, because we're trying to take all of our manual processes and make them more automated as we scale up. So yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to say about the website.
Nice. And I just want to introduce Dan Nesbitt over here, also founding member of the board, and talk about a steadfast friend and someone who make sure the financials, the little stuff is happening, and also spends a lot of time with Matt, using these Kubernetes words that I don't even quite understand yet. They're like, but the Kubernetes got to connect to I'm like, hey, is it gonna work? And they just, the amount of behind the scenes work that it takes, I just really want to acknowledge that happens. Dan, you want to say something? Everyone introduce themselves a little bit and where they're from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Nesbitt. I live in Caslow. Been there for about 5 years. And so, Lightweb has been a conversation since I moved to Caslow, and it was really great to kind of get it together with this team. And it's still kind of in its early stages, but definitely making steady progress towards our goal. So, and thank you all for being here. Thanks for, if you contributed financially, thank you. And thank you for your future efforts too.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And I think that financial piece, that's the next piece too that I'm learning about, helping to run this company. It's like, you can only do things with volunteers for so long. You can just keep doing and asking favors and calling it in. And now that we've made it this far, I'm like, oh, thank gosh, we have like a proof of concept. We have a real thing. It's like now I can full-heartedly, I could receive $10,000 from someone or even apply for a grant. We are a not-for-profit community services cooperative, and we did it for that reason, just in case CBT or some other organizations, like we see your idea for resiliency. And that's a big part of what I'm about. And I'm actually working with Stefan right now with CIFCO, Spokane Integrated Forestry Cooperative, and Integral. And it's actually great hearing the vision and hearing the vision for the valley and the demand for having such a system. And so I'm just excited about this year and what's coming and what's there. And now I just want to open it up to questions, hear what anyone has to say. Yeah.
Do you have a projection of how fast you can grow in terms of the amount of data you can consume? Like, in other words, if I found 500 people tomorrow, how much space before you can expand? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you have a projection?
With our current equipment?
Yeah, like how much you have, and if you start expanding, and like I tell 2 people, everybody tells 2 people, they tell 2 more people, and all of a sudden you have 1,000 people out in the next 6 weeks that want to sign up.
I'll answer on what I think, and then I'm going to let Matt answer. So basically, we bought this first $6,000 or $7,000 worth of equipment, and I think we have, I don't know how many terabytes of space on it.
So probably about 32 or something.
32. So we have quite a bit of storage, and we have quite a bit of capacity. And I asked Matt this question a while ago. I'm like, how many people can come into the Lightweb and be using it at the same time before we need to buy more equipment? And I think my answer was around 1,000 people was our estimate. We've never had 1,000 people doing that before. And then it's like, okay, and then we have another wish list that I made Matt write for us for a different grant we applied for, which is more like in the $20,000 worth of hardware plus 10,000 to install that kind of range, which would allow us to go quite a bit further. And Matt, maybe you can answer that question a little deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it depends kind of what subscription or how much space they want to consume from us, but from the basic model, we can probably support more than 5,000 people.
And then the next question I have, just sort of in and around the tech, I don't know if you were going to talk too much tech, but I heard the Kubernetes. So what's the platform? Is it can you get bare metal in terms of devs, or do we live within one stack?
Well, we have the current stack is 3 servers, which are clustered through Proxmox, and then we have a Kubernetes cluster that's spread across those 3 servers. But Kubernetes is an extraordinarily scalable technology, so we could scale it to hundreds of nodes potentially. And that doesn't mean the Proxmox has to be in any clusters either, and they could be bare metal, but I traditionally like using programs like Proxmox or VMware because they don't really add a lot of overhead, unless if you're trying to do more specific things like AI or something like that. But for programs like communication and websites, the extra abstraction layer actually makes it a lot easier to manage.
So you're using VMware, is it like the SXI type?
No, we're using Proxmox.
Oh, okay.
VMware as an example. Yeah, we're using Proxmox, so that's our hypervisor.
Okay.
Cloud.
Nice. I just want to check in with Jan. I know you said you have a meeting at 7:30. Did you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thanks a lot, Dustin.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I gotta go. So thank you very much, and I'll connect with you later.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Jared.
Awesome.
I wonder if the co-op model exposes a vulnerability to, say, to being audited by the government. You know, if someone was looking for a way to undermine, does the co-op model, and have you considered PMA?
Oh, private membership association is the question versus the co-op model.
Yes.
Or can be both.
This is a perfect This is a perfect question, because this was the debate that we had 3 years ago when we were sitting at the table talking about private membership associations, and we need a bank account. You know, and it was like, oh, we got to operate in the real world, you know, quote unquote. Not to say that PMAs aren't. And so that's why we went the co-op route. And the reason we went the co-op route and the philosophy behind it is, and if anyone wants to start a co-op, by the way, there's a company called Cooperatives First in Saskatchewan, and they are a cooperative that builds cooperatives. And so they basically paid for all of our legal documents, all of our stuff, everything to incorporate, and
Yeah, they wrote a business
coached
plan.
us on which kind to make. And we paid them $400 just straight up, and boom, we were a company. And so that was a cool piece. And the reason he coached us on this, and he actually wrote us an entire business plan, the company. We became a co-op because we figured if we own all the equipment, we own all the equipment. Say we put some equipment, the Sifco in the Slocan Valley, and we keep some at Avatar Computers, and we're working on putting some in what's called the Kemble Center, a village-owned building in Caslow with a big fiber line running into it. We own all that equipment, and as soon as you join the co-op, you own it too. Therefore, you own everything inside that box, and then therefore inside this private network, we can share at will, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and unless I get audited or there's some way, or someone comes to the company and asks me a question, I'll say, great, let me check in with my membership, and can you write a letter to the lawyer, and just go through that process at that time. But I don't think I'm going to try to fight any battles until someone's trying to shut us down or saying that we can't do this kind of thing.
I'll say one more thing about that too, and that's basically when you're running as a member, like when it's a co-op member, you're a member, you're an owner, you're one level more sovereign or private than you would be in the commercial space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's to an advantage as well.
Maybe I think it's a great question, because just as we're seeing, like with the ostriches, they signed a contract with the CFIA to allow them to come in to do some testing, and now because they've engaged them, and they've engaged directly the corporation. The farm is a corporation, so they're going to lose all their ostriches, but eventually. Like, they're not going to stop that. So I guess this is the question: is eventually, when this grows to a certain point, is there going to be some government agency enforcing some kind of a regulation upon you? Is there anything foreseen there,
including a co-op? Right?
So definitely those things can happen, and we're already seeing more and more, honestly, draconian kind of censorship types bills being passed. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that those bills will somebody might assume authority over where they don't have authority. And yeah, that could happen, and we can sort of pivot to a PMA based on that as well. But there's also the fact that we're using volume level encryption on the server means that if somebody does have a cease and desist order, which might not even be legal, but they're still going to strong arm this, they're going to get the servers are not going to see anything because it's all volume level encryption. Nobody's giving any keys away, so they won't get anything at least. Mm-hmm. So there's a backup plan there too in that sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But pivoting, if you get into that case, so you don't engage in that, and you're just stuck.
Yes, and I'll just say one other thing about why that's really important. People want to feel that they can have community conversations without Big Brother or big organizations, top heavy things looking at what you're doing, because people feel duress under that environment. They don't feel creative. So this is why it's so critical that we work in the private. We want people to feel authentic and to be creative. There's a lot to be said there, and I'm sure you guys know the spirit of what I'm talking about.
I just put up a sign today for Silo Therapeutics. They sell magic mushrooms. I said, "Isn't that illegal?" You go, "Yeah." we're a PMA. We're a private membership association. Go ahead. It's just that's the level. There's other PMAs in this community which were really cool, and like I'm studying to become one as well. And it's just a real interesting, because it's not in the government's jurisdiction, and it's not in their district. So it's not in their mandate. That's kind of cool. But I'm just thinking, like, if I'm using WhatsApp and they go like, "Oh, well, can WhatsApp access my photos?" And it's like, "Oh, well, I can't send a photo unless I say yes," that sort of thing. So, like, that's what I'm saying. This is really valuable.
Yeah.
For like my data as being safe, and just help me understand how safe am I with the Lightweb.
Yeah, actually, that's a question for Maddie would be able to enter
Yeah,
that?
it's really application dependent and then also settings. And we'll probably have to put some documents on this or make a matrix, and maybe we'll put this on our roadmap. So if you're having a private conversation on Element, it's like Signal. It's completely private. It's well audited, free and open source software. So you can bet that any one-on-one conversations you're having or encrypted conversations you're having on Element are not auditable even by us. If you're in Nextcloud, it's not an end-to-end encrypted system, so any data you put in there is potentially auditable by somebody who has access to the servers. But you do have a choice with Nextcloud to encrypt specific files, folders, or the entire thing. If you encrypt your entire Nextcloud files, it's just like Element, but you reduce your ability to share inside the community that way, right? So if you're trying to like share pictures with the community at large, then that becomes a lot more difficult. I'm sure that's something that the Nextcloud community is trying to address, though. It is something that's on their roadmap for a long time.
I was going to ask Sky to talk about banking for PMEs because it's possible,
Okay.
but mindful of the time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we're running out of time.
I think
yes.
because we're at this point in the conversation.
Yeah.
I want to start to transition to the AGM. I want to say hi to Christopher. I see you in there. He's one of our longtime Lightweb cheerleaders, and thanks for coming. So basically, I think we've covered the basics of what this is. I want to finish this part of the presentation off by saying, if you're not an official member of the Kootenai Lightweb, talk to Dan or Zia or I, or send us an email or whatever. It's right now we're still I like to onboard people one at a time, just because I like to get it right the first time and make sure the payment and do that kind of thing. So set up a conversation with one of us. And then, and then in the AGM itself, just in case some of you are like, yeah, I got what I need today, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna just kind of tell you what the AGM is gonna entail, and it's gonna be a pretty quick and easy AGM. I might let Matt speak a little bit more, but anyways, I'm gonna.
Are we going to switch to the AGM pretty much?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
I'm just gonna let people know what it is.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to give a president's report, but I'd say I already have. That was what happened this year. That's where we're at. So we're going to skip that part. I'm going to talk about the minutes from last year, which is going to take about 2 minutes. We're going to have a financial review. We're going to have our membership report, which we've talked about. Then Zia is going to give us the results of the survey. So we released a survey to both people that are inside the Lightweb already and also people that are curious about what's the Lightweb. And so we're going to give you the results of that survey, and then that's going to lead us into a conversation, which I'll probably put a timeline on of maybe 30 minutes of where do we go next, because we have all our members in the room, and so we can talk about where we're going to go next for 30 minutes, and then we're going to make some notes. We've got a fancy AI note taker, courtesy of Corey. Yeah, and this thing is awesome. We got to get one of these set on. It's like a design thing. You just push a button and then it goes straight to ChatGPT and it spits out your minutes, and it's going to say who seconded the motion. And so I might do a neat thing where we say I'm speaker one, and then you speak, and then it kind of remembers who you are for the rest. I'm super curious to see how this goes.
Me too. I've never used it in meetings so large. Usually it's just like me and two other people or one other person.
Yeah,
or myself just rambling. But yeah,
we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna be in full trust.
Just on a point of order.
Uh-huh.
So it looks like you got at least 20 minutes with the agenda and a half-hour conversation. So you're going to miss your 8 o'clock.
We know that, and the 8 is just you got to set that.
Got it.
Yeah.
As a benchmark. Got it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Liv. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that, so we can go on to our next part. Matt, did you want to? I know you had a little bit of a presentation created. Is there something we missed, or something key points you want to say before we move into the AGM?
No, we can move to the AGM. I can present a little later or at
annual general meeting to order on Thursday, April 24th. We have all board members present.
Thursday,
May?
May.
Sorry.
22nd.
Let's get this right. It's May 22nd.
Thanks,
2025. I'm looking at an old page right now. Okay. Delete that.
Strike it.
Okay. And yeah, I just want to say that we have Zia Fehrenbach, President, Board Member. We have Dan Nelson, Vice President. We have Dan Nesbitt, Secretary. And we have Treasurer. Thank you. And then we have Matt, Matt Gregoire, Member at Large. So if people are going to have to help me to go to more AGMs than me, but I call this meeting to order. We don't have to second that, do we? Just call to order? Perfect. Okay. We've called it to order. First thing that we're going to do is review the 2024 minutes.
Suggestion?
Yes.
First order would be to look at the agenda and see if anything needs to be changed or added. And then you get a mover and a seconder.
Sure.
Well, we're striking the president's report, so.
Well, the president's report.
Just bump it, yeah.
Yeah. The president's report, I'm going to take our meeting that we had just before this, and I'm going to call it a board report and put those minutes, and I'm just going to put them right in the agenda because that was essentially a report of what happened. So.
Got a motion.
I have a,
Second.
You can move the whole bunch. You can move the whole bunch after you.
So we'll just go through the agenda and then we'll adopt the agenda. Next part of the agenda is to review the 2024 minutes, then a financial review, then we will have our membership report. Then following that, we'll have our survey report from our members and non-members. And then we will move into a conversation for no more than 30 minutes around what we're creating in 2025. And then we will have an election, and then we will adjourn. Someone want a motion to pass this?
Second. Motion.
Okay, I motion to pass the agenda, seconded by
Brian McLaughlin.
Brian McLaughlin. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, call this meeting to order. First thing is to have Dan read the
minutes.
Read the minutes.
I'm speaker number 2. We're talking to an AI, so I'm speaker number 2. And so this is the boring part of the board. Anyway, so this is the meeting minutes from last year, which is this was April 5th, 2024. Welcome and introduction started at 5:30. Meeting called to order at 6:33 p.m. Attendees were Dustin East, Dan Nesbitt, Matt Gregoire, and Dan Nesbitt. And established quorum referred to organization's bylaws. Under our bylaws, a quorum for membership meeting is the quorum is lesser of the 5 members or 5% of the total number of members entitled to vote at the meeting, which is currently 1 member. I don't understand that, but quorum was established. Approve amend minutes of previous AGM. Motion to approve Dan Nesbitt, seconded by Dan Nelson. President's report, Dustin. Motion to approve Dan Nesbitt, second by Dan Nelson. Review 2023 minutes by Dan Nesbitt. Motion to approve was Dan Nelson, second by Matt Gregoire. Financial review, Dan Nesbitt. Motion to approve Matt Gregoire, second by Dan Nelson. Majority hands. Waive financial auditor. Motion to approve Matt Gregoire, second Dan Nelson. Majority hands. Membership report, Dan Nelson. Board of Directors, Dan Nelson and Matt Gregoire, by acclamation 2 years. Matt Gregoire, Secretary, Dan Nesbitt, Treasurer, elected to 2-year term. Zia takes newly created director position by acclamation. Almost through this. Potentiality to partner with Castle Infonet Society. These are just notes here. Deploy a social media platform that includes marketplace. Develop our subscription model. Grow membership base to over 1,000 active users. Hire our first employee for customer and tech support. These were our visions. Motion to adjourn, Dan Nelson, seconded by Matt Gregoire. Majority hands. Meeting adjourned at 7:06 p.m.
I move that the minutes of last year be adopted. Need a seconder?
Second.
If there's no discussion and you don't make any amendments, you vote and you close and move on to the next.
All right.
Here, here.
You're here.
Hello.
Okay, thanks for reading that. It was a pretty short and sweet AGM. It wasn't just the board members. It was actually, just for context, it was held in Caslow at the Kemble Center, and we had about 10 members present plus the board members. And so that's what happened. And thank you, Club, for being here to guide us along the process.
Justin, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes, please.
Is anyone taking notes in case the AI bot is not getting all the minutes?
Should be recorded all on.
So it's being recorded here as well.
Okay.
And his device is ultra reliable too, so I think we're good.
Okay.
It'll have a full audio recording too, and the transcript and the summary.
Great.
So if there are no amendments,
Mhm.
you call the question, all in favor,
All right. No.
opposed,
Yeah.
and then that motion's done, and then you move on to the next item.
Okay. So
There's no,
I say all in favor?
yeah,
Aye. Perfect. Okay, so next on the agenda is the financial report. And
maybe you have to tell the AI that was unanimous.
oh, yeah, that was unanimous.
Let me go find that.
Yeah. Dan, are you interested in reading this, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, perfect. It's always good when the guy who prepares the
So going forward,
yeah,
if you had sent us all the minutes
Uh-huh.
and they'd been read by those interested,
Uh-huh.
you didn't have to read it through. You could just go straight to the motion, right? So that time.
Good. Let's have a conversation after this.
And same thing with the financials.
Yeah.
So distributing in advance, ideally 2 weeks,
Mhm.
so people can get to it when they can, right? And then the meeting goes.
Boom, boom.
All right, I'm Dan Nesbitt, speaker number 3, treasurer, delivering the financial summary. So this is a snapshot of our finances from December 31st of 2024. So our fiscal year runs January 1st to December 31st of each year. So I can pass one of these around. I guess we're not really gonna put this up, but in terms of balance sheet, we finished the year with $5,479 in our checking account, $1,815 in our savings account. The savings account primarily at this point is there to backstop our membership fees. So that brings us to a total at the end of the year of $7,295 in our bank accounts. We had $5,220 worth of equipment, which we depreciated kind of linearly this year. So depreciation of $472, resulting retained value of $4,748. So total assets of $12,044. On the liability side, we finished the year owing $159 in GST. And so and that was basically it. So on the profit and loss side, in terms of income, we had $820 of donations, about $7 in interest. We had $3,600 worth of sales, and that was basically really donations from Focus Life Force Energy, really that we write up as an invoice on a monthly basis with them. So really, it's a very generous donation from Focus Life Force Energy. So we had a total of $4,427 of income. In terms of expenses, we had $96 for accounting and bookkeeping. We had $71 in bank fees. We had $211 in director expenses, $92 in miscellaneous fees. We had $40 for rentals. I believe that was the church hall for our previous AGM. So we had a total of $511 of expenses. So the net profit for the year was $3,916. And that concludes the financial report. Someone like to move to adopt financial
I
report?
move to adopt the financial report.
Zia moves and Ready second. Great.
Claude second.
No, Brian.
Brian second.
Sure.
Brian McLaughlin second for AI. Yeah, member. Yeah.
Okay, so we close and vote to.
Any questions
Oh,
first?
sorry, any questions on that?
All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, we should probably handle this other, just to explain, on a yearly basis, we have to kind of have a motion to waive the financial auditing of financial results. It's just really an expensive overkill for an organization of our scale. So, someone want to move that we
Waive the financial
waive
auditor.
financial auditor for the
Yeah.
year.
Zia moves to waive the financial auditor.
Okay, great. And we have a seconder. Okay, thanks,
Matt
Matt.
seconds.
Okay.
That's
Any-
Matt Gregoire seconding.
Okay, any further questions on that issue? No? Okay, so, let's go
All in
to.
favor?
All in favor?
Unanimous.
Great. And here's another copy of the financials if people want to circulate them around. And that's it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for creating that. And yeah, like I said, we use an open source piece of software to do our accounting, and then we give that to an accountant in Caslo, and she takes care of it. And yeah, it's pretty great. And as you can see, like we don't have a ton of expenses. We recently made a payment to Dan because he hosts all the servers. So basically, as a fee for hosting space and also the upgraded fee to have the IP address in his office, his internet bill is almost $200 a month. So Lightweb has basically agreed to say, well, we'll pay half of that because you're hosting that. And so that's going to come out on the next financial statements next year. And yeah, and I look forward to having sort of a membership drive and also a financial drive of like, yeah, really in my mind, we're going to talk about this a little later, of like what are the goals? I'd like to see $100,000 run through this operation next year so that we have somewhat of an employee or at least a contractor that's taking care of some of these things, and that we can buy our wish list of $20,000 worth of equipment and install it somewhere either in Caslo or the Slocan Valley or someone that has a sense of better connection than Secure by what's it called?
It's Columbia Wireless.
Columbia Wireless, because their IPs aren't as good apparently as what Columbia Basin Broadband Network provides.
There's too many hops with Columbia Wireless, and we're not doing much about it. So.
Yeah, and so it'll just make it smoother. So, anyways, I just wanted to touch base. And is there any other questions around the finances of the Lightweb? Pretty straightforward. Great. Okay, so that's that part, and then next we're going to move to membership report.
Yeah, so there's 118 members right now, co-op members, and there's 20 active members, people who are actively using Element Matrix or the cloud. This is from what
that's a guess.
That part's
yeah,
a guess because it's a lot to try and figure out.
And we probably I didn't know this number, but we probably gained about 40 members in the last year. Just new people, and we've been doing like in-person onboarding, come in, just make sure that they get it, they know how Nextcloud works, everyone's there. But we had this really interesting conversation with this woman named Jennifer. She works for Notion. She does professional onboarding for a living and makes onboarding videos. And I'm like, perfect. This is who I need. So as Matt and Dan, and we roll out this next Keycloak part, it's just like streamlining the onboarding, I think is really going to help us in our financial situation next year. But I'm grateful that we're here. We still got $4,000 in the bank account. We're moving forward. So I just want to celebrate that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's been slow and organic. Thanks.
Okay. Next piece. Yeah, we had this idea a year ago. We talked about this survey, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do a survey, and let's not use SurveyMonkey. Let's use Nextcloud and see how it is, and post a link on Facebook and see if people fill out the survey. And because you had it built on something else, I'm like, no, if this is the year too, when we use our own platforms, we share our documents inside Nextcloud, we communicate on Element. If we can do a survey on Nextcloud, I want to do a survey on Nextcloud. And so we did. So I'm going to let Zia present the results from his survey.
Yeah, do you mind pulling it up?
Yeah.
So while you're pulling it up, I'll just give a bit of context. We sent two separate surveys out one to our existing members with more specific questions about their user experience, and one to potential interested members with more questions about the values that the general conceptual values that they might find interesting about the Lightweb. They were designed to kind of give us the same insights for the most part. It's really just, I think we use the term, and someone said this earlier, it's kind of democratizing the direction of the Lightweb. This is a co-op, so we wanted to hear from the members and the audience as to where they think we need to focus for the year coming. So
Okay,
when it comes up,
so it's an element, you said?
The link is
it's
in
on,
our
it's
board
on
chat.
another tab. I think you have it in the other window.
Oh, do we have it open?
Yeah, it was already open.
Here we got this. So that's, yeah, I don't.
It was one of the tabs in your browser, Dan.
Oh, it's one of the tabs? Okay.
Oh, it's the second last tab there with the G.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah. You
Okay,
might hit
great.
present.
All right.
And for those of you guys who are excited about AI, I did use an AI app to create this insight review. So it's going to be really quick. This is the order of the priorities that we got from the audience. The top of the pyramid is what was identified as the highest priority. So you can see, and I think a lot of people here would resonate that the privacy and the data control is the most important aspect. That's what we're hearing from the 30 responses that we got. But there's also a few other important aspects out of I think there was only 6 options. So this is 5 of the 6 that appeared here. This is kind of, I would say, reassuring for us, because this has been kind of the core, like the driving factor as to what we're doing, and as to all the hard work that Dan and Matt and Dan have put in on the technical stuff to make sure that it's private and safe. But we also recognize that, Dustin touched on this earlier, if it's private and safe but it's not usable, no one's going to use it. So that's reassuring that we're on the right path and we've done some good things, but it's not enough clearly to get people using it yet. So at least we have the foundation in the right place. And you can see some of the other important stuff, ad-free experience. Of course, we're not going to be running any like display network or Google ads or anything like that. The community connection, the local initiatives, user-friendly design, those are all kind of, I would say, to be expected kind of feedback from people, but seeing privacy and data control at the top was kind of the most important insight, I would say, from this. So we just identified in the survey, we identified a little bit of like what people are currently using. We're trying to kind of identify what our interested audience is working with so that we can emulate it and usurp it, basically. And you can see here, I don't need to read out the names. Everyone's familiar with the names of these apps, but these are our goals as to some of the services and functionalities that we will be bringing.
Don't say it.
To the Lightweb. Don't say it? I won't. I don't say the name. It's like Voldemort. So this one doesn't quite fit, and it's a very simple graph that just talks about how satisfied people are with their experience so far. Fortunately, the dark part of the pie is the satisfied group. And the smallest part of the pie is the least satisfied group. That likely is, again, coming back to the user experience really needs to be dialed in to make it convenient compared to the stuff that we're trying to compete
Sorry,
with.
I think that was the other way around. The
It
dark
was
part
the other way around.
dark part was somewhat satisfied.
Somewhat.
Oh, yeah.
And the light part wasn't satisfied.
Okay, well, then even worse. We need to really improve our user experience. But people are somewhat satisfied with the privacy and data control. They just need a better UX. So we also asked people why they're interested in switching. So these are the responses that we got the most. We did leave it open-ended. So some of the, I will say one person actually submitted 4 responses that were all unique. So I think she might have skewed our results a little bit with her handwritten other responses. But this is just more insight from the potential market, if you will, as to what they're interested in. And again, it's reassuring for us that what Dustin, Dan are really saying as a kind of our visionary leaders is aligning with what people are saying in the survey. And I will say last thing, because I think this is the last slide. Oh, no, it's not the last slide. But I will say about that the demographic split of our survey responses was 24, I believe, non-user responses and 6 user responses. So we got really good insight as to how we're going to expose ourselves to other people. The people who have joined us are largely supporters. They know us. They've heard us kind of tell them why they should be excited, but some of the people that responded to the survey don't have all of that context. So it was great to see that some of that stuff is still coming through and that it's resonating with them. And then this kind of connects to the 2 slides ago talking about the stuff that we're trying to usurp. So some of the features that we ask people, like, what are the things you want? Again, going back to democratizing the direction of the Lightweb, there's lots of things we can do with this platform. My goal is to make sure that it's doing what the community really wants. And these were the things that were identified as kind of the preferred features out of the, I think, 8 choices that I gave them. And this was also just for the people that were public facing, not for our existing user base. Just kind of seeing, like, okay, based on what you've heard, based on what you've seen on the website, and based on this survey and what little information you might derive from that, are you interested? And these are more positive results than the pie chart. People are interested for sure. So this is going to lead into the next part of this this meeting, which is talking about where we're going with the Lightweb. These are the insights that we got, focusing on local functionality, the messaging and event features. I mean, the messaging is already quite developed, but Dustin had mentioned the marketplace feature. We want to create something kind of like Facebook Marketplace, but that's local, that's not, surveilling us, and maybe you can sell stuff that you wouldn't want to sell on Facebook, like information. And also events, so that we can start moving off of things like Eventbrite and stuff like that are charging us fees and that are potentially supporting less than lovely causes, and we can move it to a co-op that's supporting our local causes. Ensuring accessibility, I would say the demographics of our user base are a lot more diverse than you might think. I know at least 2 or 3 supporters that are not in the highly technically capable demographic, to be very general about it. And we recognize that because this is open source software, free open source software, Matt, that there is a bit of a learning curve to getting to use this stuff, and we definitely want to be inclusive to allow anyone in the Kootenays to use it. So we have to improve our accessibility to make it more usable for people for convenience, but also just for functionality for certain people who don't have a lot of familiarity with open source software. Dustin's been saying it a lot in this presentation, but it is really important to us, the emphasis on data ownership. The fact that this is a co-op, you own your data that's on the servers, and if you want to do something with that data, it's completely within your right. No one can tell you not. No one can say we won't do that, or that doesn't go to our. I mean, it might violate a policy if you make a really unusual request, but you own the data. And the community governance. This is something that is actually a sub concept from our initial conversations about the Lightweb, and about how it was really one of the things that it was supposed to provide was this uplifting community forum that's for good. That's not about gossip or slander or anything like that. That's a safe place. I remember you saying you want it to be a place where parents will just let their kids go because they know it's a safe and positive and wholesome place. Mm-hmm. And so using AI, using some tools like that to kind of, it's weird to say, control the messaging in a way, but make the messaging support positive messaging might be a better way to say that. Yeah. Well, police doesn't sound very good to me either.
Well, policy.
That will be my question going forward. It's like inevitably at some point or another there has to be some form of moderation, and how do you go about managing that? Because inevitably with anything social media, opinion turns to, how that goes. We've seen it all before, so that'll be a question.
There's some good answers for that too.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that dialogue. It's longer than what we're.
Yeah, and I believe that is the end of my presentation.
Another note, perhaps, is to look. Again, I'm thinking worst case scenarios. That goes with my job. Worst case scenarios. If someone does try to shut you down, and Dan mentioned earlier, no one will give up the keys. Well, could some member be coerced? Be it, somebody who's got a vulnerable situation that's exploited, what would giving up their keys do, and would it compromise the rest of the group?
I can answer that.
Maddie's got an answer for that. Let's just make sure you're loud enough here. You want to speak up a bit.
And I think this is probably a conversation that needs to be had more especially in our private meetings.
So I'm saying,
But,
just make note of it as something to investigate.
Yeah. Oh, Sequoia.
I do have a question, just, about the whole social media aspect and the file storage aspect. Just because if you're not seeing what people are storing on there, you don't know what they're storing. And oftentimes, if you're hosting the data, you're responsible for what you're hosting. And so if people are putting sensitive or illegal content on there, that can harm the platform as a whole, as well as the social media stuff. So if there are no community moderators, like, somebody posts like child porn or something, like who's responsible for that and who's managing that? Like,
Yeah, so that's a good question.
because that can bring the government down and be like, hey, like there's illegal materials being hosted on the service, like.
Yeah,
what's being done?
there's a couple of good answers for that. I don't know if we want to answer that.
I'll answer it my simple way. Like I see, like when we roll out this social media platform, that the first idea that I told you was about, it's like everything in the Lightweb gets rated on 10 stars. If this is, and the 10 stars are based on values, if this provides light, love, connection, happiness in your life, give it 10 stars. If it's okay information, but it's not quite right, you just kind of rate it lower stars. And if it's like kind of gross and porno or whatever, it's just like 0 stars or there's negative stars. And hopefully that algorithm just flushes the stuff right out until it gets deleted off the bottom. And then also using AI, I think, to help us monitor that.
And
And
the AI agents is going to play a really big role in this.
just augmented intelligence, you can now program this kind of thing. And
I'm just so, for me, I'm going to have data that's on there, but I don't want you to access it. I'm going to be hosting my own things on it. There should be disclosure as part of your membership that your private 100 gigabytes or whatever, that's your responsibility. You are liable, we are not liable. So you need legal to have that kind of disclosure.
Hold harmless.
Yeah, that was my thought too. It's a co-op. You own the data. You're responsible for it.
You mean what you put in the public sphere? If you're hosting a subject, that's a different issue. But the stuff personally, like you shouldn't be responsible for mine, and nor do I want you to have to be, because I don't want. I might be hosting client data that's private in sentences. I might be having backup data from my other service and be using the resource that way. Like I'm depending on what what I hear from Matt and what's available, but that data is private and sensitive as well, and on both fronts.
my personal opinion on it is your private data is your private data, and it's encrypted, especially in the context of Element. And our hopes for Nextcloud in the future is that it's end-to-end encrypted. So if it's your personal space, our hope is that we can't even access it ourselves. But that's not always the case with all the technology. It is the case with Element. It is the case with Nextcloud if you know how to use it. Once you share the data in the community, I think it matters the space that you share it in. So let's take just chat systems, for example. So if you're in a community chat room, obviously we don't want you posting pornographic pictures to children or something like that, and we're going to moderate that and remove it. But if you're in a private space just with a friend, we have no ability to manage that, and that's kind of the sovereignty over your own systems and chat data, right? If you're a tech guru, there's no real way to use AI or other things to moderate people's space and even Google, because you can encrypt your files and put them in there and they're unable to see them. So this is the kind of system I want to set up, is that you are completely sovereign and we're unable to look at your data. Now, as it currently stands, if the police come with a warrant and we are able, and the data isn't encrypted, so you haven't encrypted your own data, or you've decided not to use encrypted chat, then we legally have to give them the data.
Not if you're a PMA.
Not if you're in a
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but I would wonder if there's ways around that too. But
Cool. Well, this is a great conversation, and obviously a big part of keeping this privacy and everything together. And this is perfect timing, because we are looking for direction. Like we've got us this far, and it's exciting because we get to grow our board and just grow what this is and what it can be, and do our thinking very, very, very best to do what we're saying we're here to do.
Are there any committees right now in the structure?
Well, this is kind of my thought of the next part of this meeting. Is like I don't get all these amazing people in the room at the same time, and I kind of want to keep hearing from people. So I'm thinking like I'm going to tell you what my like top 5 projects, where I would love to see like a committee get formed, and then I want to kind of go around and be like, actually, I'd be interested in working on the social media thing, or I want to do the barter sell trade thing, or like where would you stand in being a contribution to the Lightweb? And we'll let our fancy AI note taker figure that out, and then maybe we start to form some different subcommittees and different people to branch out and work on different pieces.
Dan, for instance, Dan could use a committee just on finance and fundraising and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And what I'm interested in is risk management and the risks that we have, and looking at the organizational structures, kind of a look forward kind of thing, what to anticipate. And then there's room for others. So people here that want to, especially in the tech space, so form a committee, and then they would report, right? So that makes, again, the meetings more efficient, and the conversations are short.
Yeah.
So when an idea is raised, if somebody wants to move and second, there's discussion. If it needs more discussion, it goes to committee. Right?
Speaking my language. Yeah, I like short meetings, and I like when meetings come together and we report to each other what happened.
Volunteers as if you're paying.
And so, yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to kind of name a few things, and you guys can pop in, like things that we want to see this year or even in the next 3 years in the Lightweb. And I'm just going to name them because I just kind of wrote down a few things from this list. But one is like we want to work on our branding and our image, and if people are like graphic designers and want to kind of work with Zia's team and be like, wow, this is sign guy, like let's like have some fun in the creativity of the look, feel, touch of the Lightweb, even so much the culture of the Lightweb and what that is. Then the next piece was like that conversation I just had with Jennifer. Write that down. She seems amazing. The user experience. I've been saying to Dan, like, can we make a Loom video or something? I don't know how to make a Loom video, with someone who just has experience creating the user experience in onboarding. That's what she specializes in. And then social media. I've been talking to Matt for a long time. It's like I sound like a record. I'm like, can we get a thing open for Drupal already? And Matt's like, let's just do the basics and we're going to get there. But if people want to contribute to social media, I'd love to hear about that and have that captured. Then there is this fundraising piece. If people have a specialty and crowdfunding and putting it out there and making a pitch and doing that, Dan and I have been doing most of that work, and we do okay, but always room for improvement. Then the next piece is just like locations of equipment. Where does someone have a spot where they'd like to host equipment in their house? They have access to an IP address, that kind of thing. And so those are sort of my like where I want to see the Lightweb go. I don't know if you see anything in the next few years that I'm missing, but
well, the marketplace is huge.
Marketplace, that was the last one.
Yeah. There's a strong, I really feel a strong force to have a proper sort of ledger-based trading app, like a blockchain-based way of creating, having a local economy and having sort of the ledger and the blockchain support that local economy through something that really works with all of the experts that are here to help co-create that. I'm excited about that. I mean, there's a lot more I'm excited about the marketplace and having that crypto.
I'm just thinking like marketplace, like I'm just thinking of parallels here, like parallels with the Facebook marketplace and us, and like just a meme easy. Like as a garage sale last week and the guy wasn't selling stuff, he went on Facebook and he said, oh no, I'm selling it, can we get the chair? Like marketplace, like instantly. If you knew something more of that like this.
People resent using the Facebook marketplace that I talk to, and it's like, why don't we have anything like that? Because all the other marketplaces like Craigslist and whatever don't exist pretty much anymore here. So yeah, but people do want community-owned marketplace. Yeah.
Nice.
Can you use it as like a small percentage, like talking 1-2% as a revenue stream just to stabilize for future, you know what I mean, and cover cost of labor for managing forums, et cetera, et cetera? Like it doesn't need to be exorbitant, like 2-3%, or you know what I mean. We'd have to financially plan that out.
Yeah.
But if you're selling stuff for $100, you pay $2. Like
Because Facebook does it with advertising, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because
And the Lightweb could advertise too. We could advertise local lawn care business, local sign guy, local, and find ways of revenue. But I like your thought too of like maybe there's a fee,
a small percentage, it's reasonable. I mean, if you pay for an advertiser and Cooney Pennywise or whatever, you're paying something. So if you pay it on a percentage as a sale, then it's no cost up front. And you can price yourself accordingly.
Okay. So
30%.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. You would have to just figure it out and start to project what your labor costs are, because at some point, people are going to need to get paid to manage the site, right? Like, you can't volunteer forever.
I just I mean, I was on the board of the Eco Society for 13 years, and Russell Precious, who built the co-op grocery store, he was on our board. And when he got on our board, he brought us to the next level, which was hiring somebody, and we paid them $14,000 or something. We raised money, we got that, and it was just the next level. So that was like taking care of things. So it was like that was huge for us. And then it got to the next level, which Columbia Basin Trust paid for it, and then I think it went to shit. But
no, I totally am with you. I'm like, this is our mission this year is like, let's get a paid employee happening inside this organization sooner than later, because that's what's really going to drive the constant, steady focus forward and make it all happen.
And keeping those paid thing in check. Really
okay, so I'm going to look at my clock here because it's 8:15. And I promised 8 o'clock. And so now I want to say, let's have a 15-minute message. And what I'd like to hear is just give everyone a chance to speak from the perspective of, I'd like to help or I'd like to be a part of this inside the Lightweb. And then we're going to have a conversation and kind of based on these things. And then we'll adjourn and then we'll have our election. And if anyone wants to be part of the board, we can go through that. We have someone who might want to step in. Anyways, we'll get to the election when we get to the election. But just to have this popcorn, I have this experience and I'd like to help with this or be part of this would be amazing. And it doesn't have to be around the circle, but it could be.
So I have one quick question.
Yes.
So right now, as it stands, do you project that your membership costs are covering your financial needs and growing your capital so that you can start to look at what do you get for so much money? Because I can help spread the word, but I also would like to know, okay, for $25, are we covering costs there, or do you need supplemental income for your basic thing? Because I would, as a client, spend more to know that the service is going to be sustainable. Like $25 a year is nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm more than happy to amortize it if it's $100 a year for me to have 2 terabytes or whatever it is. I'm more than happy to pay that, right? Because I will be giving that to some other company to host my stuff anyways.
This is perfect. So what I would like to request is you come on our team with Z and I, who talk about this a lot of what's going to be our fee for service model, and be in that conversation with someone who would be willing to pay for 2 gigabytes of storage on our system and be one of our first clients. Because in answer to your question, the $25 membership doesn't cover our costs. What it does is it makes people a member, and then it allows them to start accessing deeper services and that kind of thing. And and a lot of people have just been getting donations, and that's how we've survived so far.
To me, the data storage is a revenue stream.
Cool. So, and your name again?
Rafe.
Rafe. Okay, so Rafe is interested in having conversations around the business side and helping us grow that out, because I would love to keep having that.
Okay.
Does that sound fair? Okay, cool. Who else?
Yeah, so I suggest that this meeting agree to form subcommittees, give them a name, draw your volunteers, and their job is to meet and report next time.
Yeah.
So again,
financial subcommittee.
Yeah,
is that what we would call this?
Part of finance, I think Dan. I don't know if Dan has ideas about that. But one is the financial reporting and all of that stuff, but the other is fundraising. The other is the business side. So a finance subcommittee as a standing committee. So that's a motion to create that. And in the motion, we can expand to all of the committees and then vote on that.
Yeah.
Right? So
you don't have to be a board member to do that. This is just like the community
right.
think tank.
In fact, but if a board member is on the subcommittees, that's ideal, because then there's representative from the board knowing what's going on at the discussion level. Right?
Great. And so what Dustin was saying, we popcorn style say, hey, what I can offer and stuff like that. What we were saying.
Yeah, and so that's it. I just wrote Rife's name down, finance committee, and then we're gonna do a follow up. And so, do we pass a motion to say we're gonna create?
Do it at the end, is what I think you said.
Yeah, we'll do it at
Yeah,
the end.
we can,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. I want to hear from Sky.
Oh yeah. So I'm this summer gonna film building some definitely I have one project lined up. It's an addition on a tiny home that's gonna be in this new style where she has a small budget, but I'm going to finance and build it. And she's gonna pay it back monthly. And we're gonna film the whole process, and then that's gonna be hopefully to kickstart a new way of funding affordable housing, asking for microcredit loans, preferably in crypto, that can then come through, eventually be managed in an open source or in a blockchain ledger, and so it's corruption proof. And then so after this project's done, there's income coming in monthly to pay back the loan. She's happy, and then we just keep going on to the next project, build the next one. And this is all in the private, in private owners associations with people that are putting their land in trusts and working in the private. So they want neighbors. We know how to build with zero impact, off grid mainly, and so I want to contribute content. I've started filming. And then we have Justin as well, who's involved in the project, who's a great videographer. And so social media wise, I just detest Facebook. I just can't go on there. And so I'm trying to, but know that I'm like to post and ghost there, but this could be maybe some kind of content creation launch for the social media side of, and we need a website hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect. What I hear, and this is what I've thought, I want to be a content creator. I want to load up the Lightweb with really cool content of stuff that's happening in the Kootenays. So that's a huge contribution, is being a content creator on the Lightweb. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just say that PeerTube is a great open source system to use as a container that we've launched in the Lightweb for what you're talking about.
PeerTube.
PeerTube. Okay. Yeah, it's like a what is the protocol that it uses? Maddie, what's the protocol PeerTube uses?
It's escaping me right now, but it's the same as Mastodon uses as well. They do integrate ActivityPub. It's called.
There you go.
And that's an important priority. There's a lot of open source software out there, but one important priority for us is that it's one that federates, so that other communities can engage with each other, even though they're from disparate servers and communities. They can still engage with one another.
Exactly, it's really important for it to grow organically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe we will just go around. Maybe we could just start with maybe Stefan or something, or someone. Where do you see yourself contributing to this project?
Well, I'm glad I came. I've learned a lot, and I'm really, thankful for all the work you guys have done. I don't know. As you know, we're working on some platforms ourselves and some apps and all that. So I want to see, synergies, ways that they can actually, not double up, and
Working on ledger apps and barter like that.
Yeah, we're doing like a barter / mutual credit system app that's phase 1's completed now. We've been building it for last year, and we wanted to create a crypto bridge in phase 2, and then a AI feedback mechanism in phase 3, and we just fundraised for phase 2, so we're launching phase 2 building now. And it kind of fits with marketplace. Some marketplace is kind of new economy, like the bottom up kind of new economy stuff. But I think it connects with a lot of what's happening here. Definitely, hit me up for some funding. I think we could support you guys that way. I think we can locate some equipment in the Spokane Valley. Can help that way. Yeah, just a supporter in general, and I've run co-ops. I'm running one right now. I was on the board of the community co-op for years, so I've got experience at that level too. So whatever you guys, just
this is super exciting.
Come knock
That's
in,
perfect.
and,
partnering. I downloaded that app and started using it. And I'm like, this is it. It's really real that we can have a ledger system created inside the Kootenays fast.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that and the funding and what the wealth you bring. Thank you. Wait.
I guess I've been talking to Dan a bunch. I'm pretty knowledgeable on the hardware side of things. So actually the actual servers and stuff. I have my own server where I host my own, open source stuff, my own website. I can do web dev stuff, front end and back end. So if you guys need help with that, I'm also quite good at, helping people with the technology and teaching them and problem solving with them. So yeah, that's going to be a big part, obviously, is a lot of people aren't super tech savvy and they're not going to know how to use it and set it up.
Yeah.
So there's going to need to be somebody there for customer support, and obviously onboarding them and showing them how to use it with their own systems and their own needs.
Put me in board with support on that.
This is exactly what we're looking for.
What would the name of that committee be?
I'm calling it support and onboarding.
Tech support.
Tech support.
That would be tech support, and we'd have wikis and all the kind of.
And I guess another committee would be obviously the hardware, the actual hardware.
Yeah, if we like networking, hardware, working with
hardware,
Dan
and I don't know if you'd want software combined with
but
that.
your knowledge of front end, back end, and containers and things would be very helpful.
Yeah.
To contribute with that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And we're just gonna keep going, but I got the notes. Go.
I mean, I'm not a specialist by any means, but I definitely resonated with the local option for the marketplace. I literally hate that I still have the Facebook app because I can't let go of marketplace. It's the only strings that it attaches to this app, and probably could definitely contribute some blockchain and like way of exchanging money on that level. Aside from that, I'm not sure. Aside from ideas and general keenness, but that's definitely just a piece that I really like to see happen.
We'll get in there, and that's a super good point. A good way of being a supporter. As soon as we roll out a marketplace, you post your lawnmower, you post your service, you post your thing, because what I've learned is the network is only as powerful as the people using it. And so that's perfect. So thank you for just wanting to contribute in that way, and blockchain is perfect, and let's keep going.
Well, I'm been working with Matt, continue to work on that on the core infrastructure, server infrastructure. So the kind of stuff we're looking at, we probably talked about, we really need to get the whole stack under Kubernetes so everything's containerized, so we can maintain that and scale that properly, and also some of the automation of the administration stuff, like the onboarding and all that kind of stuff needs to be worked on as well. So those are probably the immediate priorities we'll work on.
Nice. Thanks, Dan.
It's
Laura, by the way.
I like what, hi everyone, I'm Laura, I'm Dan's partner. I'm a kind of behind the scenes supporter. I like feed him, take care of him.
Huge.
He's so committed, and Dustin, all you guys have been so committed. Just seeing the commitment you guys have put in over the last few years, it's just incredible how hard you've all worked. And it's the first time I've showed up for a meeting, so it's nice to be here with you all. But I like what Dan said about being like a general keen person, and to help bring in members. Like, the more I can understand about it, the more I can help spread it to my communities as well. And as you said, with the marketplace, like being involved in just participating and bringing people in. And I'm sure you guys will have ideas maybe that you need my help upon, and you can call on me. So
you've been a great,
I'm not a tech person.
great cheerleader.
I'm a therapist, and I do my work behind the scenes. So her
eco art therapy stuff, connection with nature, has been really inspiring to me to see that whole healing of the trauma of being disconnected from nature. That's a big part of this as well.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. I have to go.
Ciao.
Cheers.
We'll see you next week, Stefan.
I have to go too, but I can just contribute.
Yeah.
I see that is a CNC. No problem. A CNC or logo. and things like that. And I see the parallels. Like everybody's talking marketplace and stuff like that. But like infiltrating marketplace would be like parallel. We're parallel, right?
Yeah.
We're the parallel. Like when you post on marketplace or something, you do parallel like on marketplace. Well, the Lightweb's here, and like even on marketplace, you advertise on marketplace like Kootenai Lightweb. Like, and you say, oh, they're going to be cut off. We just keep filing it, just like in Harry Potter. We just keep going at it.
That's it. Parallel systems.
Keep writing their write them in.
So right,
yeah, I
I put
really
you on our
appreciate
marketing branding team, and just
Yeah.
general
I mean,
guidance
I've
is
been
so
doing
good.
it for
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
pro. The art man. Thank you.
I'm the art man.
Yeah.
Okay, love you guys.
Ciao, nice to meet you, Brian.
My fridge is broken down, and I got to go talk to the repairman.
Oh, good. Thank you so much for coming out.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really good at figuring things out. I'm really good at like database engineering, research analysis. If you guys need things found for good prices, I'm like, pretty much anything that you throw at me, I'll figure it out.
I would
like
like
going
to-
over like financials,
Yeah.
going over projections, going like, if you need help with stuff, just let me know and I'll help. That's basically it. Like,
Yeah,
I,
I've
don't
seen
know. Like I
one
have such a big,
You have a
like
lot.
I have a lot
I know.
that I can bring to the table. So it's not just like,
You can help us with the digital immune system around being our better selves.
so much.
Yeah.
And there's so yeah, if you like you were saying about the costing, I think Rafe was bringing up how much it costs, and like I can do cost analysis, and I can actually do like come up with a report to be like, this is actually to the cent how much you need to charge. How much you need to charge your users to be able to make money, profitable expansion, future. Like I do really good things with cost analysis.
Right.
And yeah, anyway, so I could build systems in that way, and I work with spreadsheets quite a bit. And yeah, anyway, so but there's so many other things that I can offer that I don't really know where to start, other than like, if you come up to a roadblock, just let me know, and
Well,
I'll try to figure it out. Like
I'd love to bring
I'm a
you
really
and Rafe
critical thinker
into this creative financial conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
And Zia, because we've talked a lot about what to charge for clouds and things,
of course,
and just start to like roll that out in a system that might not get it right the first time, but if we can analyze it and get it,
it's always iterative. It's never right the first time ever, and it's going to have to take like a lot of information. And the more that I just would ask you a lot of questions, and then I keep on asking questions until I get all of the data that I need, and then one cell spits out a number that says this is how much we need to charge people. So there's that sort of thing that I find is really helpful, and I've done quite a bit of cost analysis on many projects.
Nice.
So that's something that I could actually build on, and it's a time-consuming thing that needs a lot of data, but that's something that
Cool.
I
I'll share our business plan too with everyone, because they kind of just analyze Google, Dropbox, this all the things. And
It's a really good business
So we'll
plan.
go from there, and then perfect.
If it's in a spreadsheet already, then it's really easy to import. I don't know. Are you using Python? What do you use for your data split stuff, your analysis? We'll talk later. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go to we've talked, but let's go to Justin here.
Hey everyone. I'm not sure, to be honest, like for me personally, I don't really have that much time this year. But I think one of the things, like I know it got brought up around events and marketplace. I've been running Caslo events website since kind of at the end of last year. So I've got some insights around how hard it is to move people out of Facebook into a different site. But at the same time, we're getting like 400 people like traffic a month, which is not too bad for the size of Caslo. And but I think if there was a marketplace thing and we could collaborate on that, we could potentially like make that push out of Facebook a lot better as well together.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, Justin develops a lot of apps and works with app companies and just does the system stuff. So I'm gonna kind of put you on this, development, creation inside of marketplace, and also events, because Lightweb likes to host events too, and so that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, and just something to note, like I think it got brought up earlier, definitely from a consultant's point of view and having clients and that, and primarily using AWS to host everything. Once you get to a point where we can like automate all that stuff and use something like Terraform, or any of their CDKs, like similar kind of thing to kind of manage infrastructure ourselves? Like,
firstly, I think there's a business opportunity to also hosting locally in Canada. And like, not to mention that all the nonprofits, people like CBT, if you do work for them, their mandate is that it has to all exist only in Canada. So there's not that many options if you're really trying to like keep all services internal. So, something like that, building out a robust infrastructure that could support those kinds of organizations. And like, I think that's a great way for the Lightweb to also kind of be able to grow financially and get that kind of support. Second, from my perspective, there's a like my interest in a lot of ways is a kind of a unification level here, in the sense of like there are all these amazing groups of people in Nelson all working as independent silos. Like, the AI group next to the tech group, next to the Lightweb group, and like I know there's some crossover with a couple of us between them, but they're still all their own independent entities. And I think that's another opportunity for the Lightweb to potentially be able to provide like some level of like local infrastructure, like hosting things like Superbase and being able to kind of promote things like hackathons where, we had the experience at the last AI Collective where there was a bunch of people at the table, all these really bright people saying, what problems can we solve? Like, what can we throw our stuff at for free? And like, the real sense was like, well, I don't know, we need kind of like some sort of a coordinating factor around that, right? And so I feel like that could be a great underlying use case for Lightweb too, is to just be supporting the developer community in that context of like offering local hosting, being able to kind of facilitate things like building local products and things that the community can benefit from. So then, the third point I wanted to make was just about sort of this like AI sort of thing, how, a lot of this is still being offshored to the large language models, really in the context of like OpenAI or Anthropos Claude or Gemini. And really there are opportunities there that, like they're not the cheapest and easiest to host kind of opportunities in the sense that they're very GPU heavy. But, there are some open source models out there like Llama and DeepSeek and Mistral that potentially we could be hosting off a couple of beefy old iMacs with big graphics cards. And, like we're not going to be matching sort of like the inference levels, but I mean, to host like something like DeepSeek at its full level on DigitalOcean for a month is about $17,000. So if we could kind of figure out some way to be hosting even smaller subsets or distilled versions of those locally and offering that as part of that kind of development pool, that would be a way in which the AI communications could also be kept data sovereign and data local and within the co-op's control. And I kind of think moving forward, that's going to become more and more of an important issue.
Yeah, that's amazing. Look, there's a lot of really good points. I'm glad you said all that stuff. We also have really cheap electricity here.
Sure, yeah.
We have, there's a lot of reasons.
Absolutely. Hearing things like the creek that runs through your place where you have to run the heaters to burn off the energy, I mean, that just begs for like some kind of server farm sitting on top of that, but then one last thing is, I know I've got a very like long Drupal background, and I know I've been promoting to you guys very much like, hey, Open Social is a great network for this, but I'm going to retract all of that because honestly, like I looked at it a week ago, I spun it up for this use case of like, I'm personally kind of tired of waiting for CAS to step in to do their things other than providing us with this great many things, CAS. And CBT too, that like I've done sort of multiple pitches to both of those organizations for community-oriented things, and I have built some communities for them already, but like the reality is they kind of, it's not, there's no real traction there. And when they have built out communities, they don't have a plan to run them. So as soon as the consultants that they've hired for 2 years as contractors kind of finish, then it falls apart. So I really feel like this is something we need to take into our own control now. And I've noticed it with the tech group, the mailing list is no longer under CAST. That's now been run for themselves. And so I've actually started about 2 weeks ago kind of rebuilding an open social type thing, particularly also focusing on things that that I've been hearing over and over again, like marketplace. As a local marketplace has been a like consistent thing at almost every tech meetup I've ever been to. Someone saying, "Please, can we have an alternative?" And so what I've started to sort of hammer together, and also very much based on our last conversation of like, of all the things we can hack on right now, what's the thing that could actually bring the community the most value? And I think it is some kind of an infrastructure that we control that's a little more public, right? Like I think what you guys are doing is amazing with Nextcloud and the private intranet, but that requires you to be sort of like signed in, paid up to be part of an intranet. Whereas I feel like we're missing a big opportunity with Nelson to be marketing ourselves as as a community with like amazing diverse makers, amazing diverse artists, amazing tech community, amazing farmers, and each of these are possibilities that could fit through the same kind of ecosystem of something that manages events, groups, opportunities being volunteer opportunities, being jobs, being internship, being whatever. Like if you need help with something, like and then in the same way having some form of a tech directory, right? Like the A in CAST stands for association, and at this point there is no sort of central listing. If you come to CAST and say, I'm looking for a WordPress guy, or I'm a senior, I need help with my email, they're going to say, we don't know who to send you to. And like that's kind of missing the point of what the organization is. So I really feel like there's this capacity for us to kind of take control with this kind of loose infrastructure, run it on modern like serverless setups like Supabase, which is open source and can be self-hosted, and really just kind of like, I don't know, take control of it.
I can see that as a parallel system.
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of more like the public-facing one, right? It's the public groups, the public marketplace, and like you still have to be signed in, and potentially you could still be using your same sort of single sign-on authenticated system, so that if you're a member to that, you're a member to the greater thing. But I also really just want to see, like, we've had so many amazing presenters and so much great knowledge that's come through all these different groups, and it just goes into the Facebook ethosphere and just disappears a month later, and there's no evidence that there's this thriving tech community here, and
that's a good point. So it's sort of like it has to be done in-home, in-house, has to be done locally here. Don't depend on some large body to be supporting it because it's just going to fall apart.
No, and to my point about Drupal, just that like it's kind of like last decade's technology. Like there's newer, better ways to do it now, and especially with AI and agentic engineering and vibe coding, and I mean, there's a lot of ways to build this stuff quicker than you've ever been able to before, and purpose build it to every single feature that we want. You want fundraising so that someone says, I've got an idea and I need funds, great. Turn on the fundraising part of it and then let people donate straight to them. And just kind of like, or through some kind of a blockchain network, or like, I love several of the people that have connected different things here. I think these are all valuable additions to a back end. Like at the moment, I'm just focusing on a front end because I feel like too, this is something we could take to a CBT or a CAST and say, look, we built it without you. This is what it's going to cost you to have your logo on it. Like, and have some kind of way to actually get it funded and fund the underlying infrastructure of it with the kind of like, if you want to be the face of Nelson's tech community or make a community or whatever, like, then put some money behind it.
I see you being a vision for that and creating that big.
I'm mad.
You got a lot there. You got about 3 other committees to talk about. But thank you. No, that's a good big picture about what needs to happen.
Yeah, I feel this desire, and Matt, now you heard I've talked about this Greg Copa guy over and over, and I'm like, you just open that container and but it's like, where's the strategy? And what I hear coming from you is like, let's create the strategy of how to roll this out right the first time. So CAST looks at us, CBT looks at us, the Chamber of Commerce looks at us. They're like, we want all of our chamber members to have an outward-facing website inside of your system.
In some ways, I want the chamber to look at us and go, oh man, that's what we should have had. And maybe that's what we'll have next.
Well, every
actually, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't think we want them involved at all because they haven't done anything. CBT giving us some money because they've got loads of it and they don't seem to spend it.
Strings attached.
Yeah, and I think.
Okay, let's keep going around the circle here.
Strategic development.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's finish the circle, and then I've got Christopher there. Chris, you hear us? I think you might have to unmute.
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, excellent. Long time listener, first time caller. No. I don't have like exquisite tech skills, but I have above average user, I suppose. And when I first heard about this, it was maybe near the end of the pandemic or still in that era where we were like, we need to protect our communications. We need a base, a way to communicate that can't be taken from us. And I didn't think too much more about it, other than when you first, Dan, pitched a marketplace or created a channel for it on Matrix, and I think I posted a truck on there or something. But it doesn't have the traffic, but all of that stuff and everything. And the last fellow, I didn't catch his name, who was talking, like, hire that man. I love his ideas and enthusiasm. I really think the vision here is super strong, and obviously I'm stoked to see the directions it can go and the scalability and whatnot. I haven't been on Facebook for maybe 3 years now, and I haven't been on Twitter for 2 years. And those are the only two that I used anyways. So I have no social media other than maybe I look at some YouTube comments here and there. But I still I want to connect in the community. I want to trade and do commerce and converse and hear about events and things that are happening, but I cannot. I just can't. My being won't let me even get close to Facebook. I just get revulsion instantly. So I'm happy to be a part of if you need a moderator on a marketplace or a whatever, I've got enough know-how to pitch in for things like that. And I'm a electrical contractor. If you need to build anything that requires electrical or pull a permit for something, give me a shout.
There's also one other
Yeah.
thing that your enthusiasm around privacy-based smartphones with either graphene or EOS.
Calyx.
Calyx.
I prefer Calyx.
Okay, well then great. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can see, I know you're excited about that. So you having a role getting people on the Lightweb using Nextcloud, but using a proper privacy phone with Fairphone or whatever you use with Calyx.
100%. Yeah, I'd love to help out with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
thanks all.
That's a big thing. Thanks, Christopher. I'm really going to put you down on this, a knowledgeable, I can crack phones kind of person, because a lot of people are sick of
Don't need
Android.
the Chinese guy anymore.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Thanks, Christopher.
Thanks,
We're almost there on the home stretch. Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
hanging in here.
And then, Marcus is next.
Well, just want to, I've always been sort of the presenter and educator and explainer. So I'm the front end and just trying to get people to join in, right? So when we get to that point, I have thousands of followers who are directionless. Well, essentially what I can say about the followers, the thousands of followers, is that everybody's just gone stagnant. Everybody's just sort of stopped. They're just scrolling. They're not going anywhere. They're not engaging. So anyway,
yeah,
I would love to present something brand new that just a little spark to bring people back in. So I'm that front person, and so getting people to sign up and get onboarding, but not onboarding in the sense that you guys are talking about it. I'm talking about onboarding where I sit with someone and I can get them on and using the system. And right now, there's still a few things to figure out because even I have issues.
That's perfect, and that's exactly what we're gonna keep working.
So,
and then as soon as our system is smooth and rolled out, it's like Marcus, Laura, Scott. It's like now message your 2,000 people.
So is that
let's go. We're ready.
Communications,
right?
Yeah, communications for Marcus.
Communications, promotions, and
Communications,
onboarding,
kind of
but
have
onboarding in
membership.
that other sense, right?
Yeah.
Of just getting people signed up.
Okay, so if we can
Sales.
We got to close this in 2 minutes. I'd say we got to close all this up.
Do we have to be out of here?
We're supposed to be out of here by 9. So
I just we're almost an hour over time. I want to see what it is today. Yeah.
So Matt, I think is.
Matt.
Last, he hasn't commented yet.
Yeah, what do you think about all that, Matt? So far,
board members.
I mean, all of it sounds. A lot of these kind of revolve around conversations we've had already, and we've had a lot of discussions behind the scenes about this, and obviously there's lots of new ideas as well that kind of move on top. I think it would be worth having another meeting like this one outside of an AGM to really ideate and kind of come up with a more focused idea of how we go forward. It was really mine and Dan Nesbitt's plan to kind of have the onboarding portion streamlined for this meeting, and we're probably still a couple weeks out, but we do think we're going to streamline the onboarding process and simplify using the Lightweb quite a bit here in the future.
Great.
I had a little presentation lined up, and really it comes down to computers and technology are complex, just like science has been complex. But as we developers and people take complexity over time, they simplify it, right? We've taken Newton's and Maxwell's algorithms, and eventually had Einstein come up with a very elegant solution equals MC squared, right? So I think the Lightweb is doing the same thing. We're procuring difficult, decentralized, complicated systems, and we're slowly trying to simplify those processes and make sure they all work together. Yeah, federation is important. Federation's difficult. It's been difficult all through history, but I really think that technology and free and open source software is coming to a culmination point where these things are actually feasible, and we can have lots of communities. One thing I worry about with the Lightweb is that if we do grow too large, it's still like I had mentioned Signal was before. It's one community that can just be taken down. If it gets so big, the government may take notice and shut us down for some reason. So it's important that we, help distribute these systems to other communities as well, and that's why federation is important. And simplicity, so that the communities can adopt them.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm going to take two more.
I just have a question for Matt, actually.
Yeah.
As far as you guys are streamlining what you feel is going to be like an easier onboarding process for non-tech people, would it be prudent to have I'd really like to be involved in those conversations, because I'm curious as to how it works. You know what I mean? If you're building something and you're seeing how it's built from the ground up and why the changes happen, then you have a stronger framework and point of reference to how it works. I don't know if it's too early in the process for other people to be coming on board, or how that would be something I would like to start getting.
It's something we're working on right now, so if you want to be engaged with that, I would be happy to include you in those conversations. It's really myself and Dan Nesbitt that are working on that at the moment. So if you want to join in on those meetings, I'd be more than happy to invite you in.
Well, that sounds like a committee for that.
Is that like the tech thing that we were talking about to begin with?
The tech support or customer service or something.
Okay, so on a point of order, we've got a motion on the table.
Yeah.
To do with structuring subcommittees.
Yeah.
How many do we have?
I got hardware, backend, finance, content creation, membership, which is sort of like the marketing piece of it. And marketing.
That particular one would, it goes into everything, but that would be considered back end. That would be on the back end.
We need a seconder for the motion to create these subcommittees.
I second that.
Okay.
If no further discussion, call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed?
All in favor.
It's unanimous.
All right. We'll create these 5 committees.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, we adjourn.
I'm hungry.
What about the election part?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, the election?
Yeah.
We're not done.
Okay, maybe you can help us with this.
Yeah, if you do this quick,
this is
these
great.
guys got to go.
Okay, usually the chair for the election is somebody that's not part of the executive.
That's fine. Okay.
I'm happy to play that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the election portion. We need nominations. We need to know the positions.
Yeah.
We need to know who's cycling out.
See, this is where people are going to.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I have to go.
Are going to.
Is that you?
Turn into pumpkins.
Well,
People are
that's
turning into
Can I make a motion
Yeah.
to table the actual election until we start
Yeah.
to discern which positions you need, and people can think on it?
I mean,
I just have met all half
Well,
of
we
you
can-
like today.
is
I
anybody
wanted-
on the
I want-
board retiring?
We do have one person retiring.
Okay.
And so I just want to address this in this meeting. And then if that position gets filled this meeting, that's great. And if it doesn't, that's okay. We can always have another general meeting and have another election.
So
At
it's a
any time.
renewal
Yeah.
of mandate for all, replacement of one.
Okay.
So do you have a candidate to replace the one?
Well, I was hoping our friend Jeff from the East Shore was going to be on this meeting, but I haven't seen him pop in.
Well, he was driving, so he was.
Yeah, he was driving.
Did he
Yeah.
say that he would serve?
He said that he would sit on the committee. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's proposed.
Mhm.
Who's retiring?
Dan is retired.
Dan, okay. So Dan's retiring, Jeff's replacing.
Yeah.
So a vote on that. And then if everybody else is renewing their mandate, there's your election.
Yeah. Perfect.
So you can do it as an omnibus, do it all in one. Okay. So I move that we thank Dan for his service, accept Jeff's volunteering for the position.
Yeah.
And that all other positions are renewed.
Right.
Need a
And
second?
before that, I just want to just know, is anyone else keen to be an actual board member of the Kootenai Lightweb?
Christopher's got a hand up. Christopher's got a hand up.
Christopher's got a hand up. Christopher, that would be sweet.
Oh, I was just seconding that.
Is there a constitution for the co-op?
We created a constitution.
Do you have one?
Matt, what do we have?
Well, we have our bylaws, basically. I mean,
And do the bylaws specify how many members on the board of directors?
that is a minimum and limits. We need a minimum of 3 and maximum of 9 or 7. I'd have to look at it again. I think
It's 9. It was
If it's
9,
7,
okay.
how many are you now?
5.
Okay, so
Whoa.
you're not even, you're above the minimum.
Yeah.
You're not at your max.
Mhm.
You can have open positions and you can appoint interim people to those positions in the course of the year. So.
Okay.
You don't really need, so we've got a motion on the election, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need a proposer outside of the existing board.
So Jeff who though? I don't know.
Proposer?
Jeff Poneke. I can give you a little bit of background on Jeff.
Tremblay.
Or Jeff Tremblay.
Yeah.
I think he goes by Poneke.
Nobody opposing him.
Nobody opposing him.
So it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
If there were opposition, then you present each and people can know who they're voting for. But there's no vote really. He's volunteering. There's an opening. He's accepted. So we have a motion. We need a seconder.
I'll second it.
You can't.
No, you can't.
Oh,
We're
okay.
on the
I'll
exec.
second it.
Okay. And Jan is seconder. And then any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Say aye.
Opposed? Okay. Unanimous.
Can I make a motion that you become the chair?
I was just
Yeah, chairing the meetings, which is really being a traffic cop.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Thank you.
It's not president or spokesperson or.
But it'd be our chair.
It's.
I love
Yes,
Just
meeting
runs the
chair.
meeting.
Love it.
meeting chair.
Right.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Okay, now it is closed. Thank you so much. Yeah, send us the details.
Welcome.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah.
motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
So we proposed these committees. These things work.
Do we have? Good night, guys. Good night, guys.
Yeah. Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that from here.
We did it.
Stop recording.